Hey everyone, welcome back to the Huddle. My name's Nicole here with
Colorado Avalanche fan Ian St. Clair, because the Denver Broncos haven't made the playoffs for 5 straight years. So here we are.
So we're switching teams. I should have put my Penguins gear on. We've made it, Ian. We've made it to the Super Bowl. We are at the time of filming 4 days away, and this could be our last episode of the season. So let's make it a good one, but we're sad to leave you guys. Yeah, I'm sad. We've got a Super Bowl matchup that I don't think anybody saw coming with the Chiefs, or not the Chiefs. That's what people thought, with the Rams and the Bengals. And I know I think it's going to go pretty one-sided, but I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, and I feel that same way too, but it's also how I thought the whole game for the AFC Championship was going to go down. And then in the second half, we had Patrick Mahomes playing quarterback like his brother.
Yeah, so should we just jump on into it? Because I think that's probably why I did a slip and said Chiefs. Like, we're ready to talk about the Chiefs. So without further ado, it's time for the worst of the week. And I think we're both in agreement here. It's going to be the AFC Championship game, and it is going to be the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes looked like a deer in headlights in the second half of that game. And it pretty much all started right before halftime when Andy Reid entrusted Mahomes to get one more playoff and manage the clock, potentially giving them a fourth down situation with about a second left to go ahead and kick a field goal and put them up by an additional 3 points heading into the half. Mahomes did not manage the clock correctly, and they left 3 points on the field. I don't know what was said in that locker room, but Patrick Mahomes looked like he didn't even know how to play football in the second half of that game.
It was such a shocking reversal of what we've seen from Patrick Mahomes. And I'm going to take credit for it, because our last show, I said what Patrick Mahomes did with 13 seconds left to tie the game up against the Buffalo Bills in the divisional round was the greatest thing that I've ever seen from a quarterback ever. So he obviously watched the show and he's like, oh, well, I guess I have it in the bank now. But seriously, whatever happened in the second half, what happened at halftime, whether he got chewed by Andy Reid or offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, or he just had his confidence shattered. As you said, he did not look like the same quarterback. And I joked, I bet his brother could have played quarterback better than Patrick Mahomes did in the second half of that game against the Bengals, because he was lost. I remember Tony Romo talking about how the throws that he was making, Tony Romo, and I said that even before that, I said to my wife, he's not attacking. He's not the same quarterback with these throws. And Tony Romo mentioned that he was being more conservative with some of his throws. And that, I mean, there was that last drive right before they got into overtime. And I still don't understand what the Chiefs were doing on that drive at the end of regulation. Wouldn't you go for the win? I don't understand playing for the tie, but that goes back to Andy Reid's clock and game management, which has always been an issue going back to his time in Philly. It was just a bizarre second half for the Kansas City Chiefs. And as a fan of the Denver Broncos, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, here's the thing. They had an 18-point lead. They blew an 18-point lead. And yes, it's disappointing to leave points on the field before you go into the half, but it wasn't like game changing at that moment. Yeah. Now, yes, we can look back at it and say this was the turning point of the game and analyze. But at the time, it wasn't like they were tied going into the half and they had the chance to go up. Like, they were already up. So yeah, I don't know what the hell was said to Patrick Mahomes in that locker room, but man, it did not work if they were trying to like pump him up and get him to forget about that. So now we have the Bengals going to their third ever Super Bowl appearance. And I have a little quiz for you here. Let's see how you perform. So we have 2 number 1 picks going up against each other in the Super Bowl. Now, Ian, do you remember the last time this happened?
I'm sure it involves the Denver Broncos and John Elway. So but off the top of my head, I do not know the last time two number one picks played in a Super Bowl.
All right. So it is Super Bowl 50 in 2016 with
Oh, how
Peyton
about that?
Manning and Cam Newton.
So it wasn't John Elway.
Was not John Elway, a much more recent quarterback for the Broncos. But I just had to I thought it was a little fun fact to add into our worst of the week.
And that is fun, but it's not fun for me because that was the last time the Denver Broncos were any good.
Honestly, though, if you think about it, it's only 2022. So it's not like that long of a time ago. I mean, think about being a Bengals fan.
Enter the Titanic. It's been 84 years. That's what it feels like as a Broncos fan. But yeah, I mean, with the Bengals, it's been since the 80s since they were in the Super Bowl. And at least they're not playing the 49ers, because how ironic would that have been? The two prior trips that they played in the Super Bowl, they played the 49ers. So they go back for the third time and they play the 49ers again. And there is some thought that was a very real possibility, since the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan had beaten Sean McVay and the Rams 6 straight times heading into the NFC Championship game. So
that game was also infuriating for 49ers fans.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that was frustrating for a lot of 49ers fans. Yeah, I believe I saw on Twitter that no one had prior to this season been able to send a text message that the Bengals won a playoff game. So that's how long it had been.
That's incredible.
I believe the last time the Bengals won a playoff game was about 2 months or 3 months before the first text message was ever sent. So if you put it into perspective as a Broncos fan, doesn't seem so long now.
No, it doesn't. And the Bengals continue to make history because they won their first ever road playoff game against Tennessee. And then they did it again in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. So they won their first ever 2 road playoff games. So they doubled up. Joe Burrow doubled up on the road wins in the playoffs for the Bengals.
And you and I were talking about luck here, because in that Titans game, Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times.
9 times.
9 times.
And I don't know what the statistics 9 times. I'm not sure what the statistics are of a team that is like allowed 9 sacks and went on to win the game. That would actually have been something fun to look up before we started filming this, because I can't imagine it's a high number.
Well, it helps that you had a quarterback on the other side throw 3 interceptions. That kind of makes up for it.
I guess, yeah, if they cancel each other out.
And we talked about the matchup. I think that's where this game is going to be decided. I don't think the Bengals offensive line is good enough to block that front 7 for the Rams of Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, and the other characters that they have on that defense. I mean, Aaron Donald could potentially get 9 sacks by himself, which would be incredible. He won't, obviously, but I just don't see how this Bengals offensive line is going to be able to block that front for the Rams after the trouble that they had with Isaiah Simmons and the Titans in the divisional round when they upset the Titans. So that's going to be what determines this game, because if Joe Burrow is spending time on his butt, it's obvious that he can't throw passes to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd or whoever. That's going to be the determining factor. And I think the Rams offensive line is better than the Bengals. So I think that's where the Rams offense is going to be able to make headway, as I think Stafford's going to have time to make plays with Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham.
I mean, I agree with you here. I think that we know that Donald and Miller are going to bring the pressure. I believe they've combined for over 32 pressures just in the playoffs, just those two. So the key here, I mean, on paper, obviously this is a massive mismatch, right? Like if you take this offensive line against what the Rams have, but the key here is that Burrow has been under pressure this entire season. Actually, the last 2 seasons, and has really learned to get the ball out quickly, very, very quickly. And if he's able to do that, he might stand a chance. But like you said, the pressure isn't going anywhere. And obviously the Rams are very aware that this offensive line is lacking. So we'll see, how much Burrow can cope with the pressure and how fast he's able to get that ball out, and what the Bengals have drawn up, knowing that, the Rams are coming with the pressure.
Yes, 100%. That's going to be what determines this game. That's going to be the lines for both teams. If Matt Stafford, if the Bengals are able to get pressure on him, that's obviously how Stafford struggles, where he gets happy feet and makes bad decisions and thinks his arm is a cannon and it can throw it to places that no other quarterback can, and it usually results in a pick. So that's how you can disrupt this offense, is getting pressure on Matt Stafford. So that if you're watching this game, that's going to be ultimately what will determine it, to be as cliche as possible, since that's what people have said about football since the 60s.
I'm personally rooting for Stafford. I think the man suffered enough in Detroit for a very long time. Let's get him a win. But should we take it to Twitter?
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start here. Obviously, we didn't see you guys last week, and this is when it happened, but Washington football team, like, what are you doing? Well, they're not the Washington football team anymore. They are the Washington Commanders, and I have to say,
AKA the
hate
Commies.
the name. Yeah, like everyone on Twitter is already calling them the Washington Commies. It's horrible. And not only, like, you had 2 years to come up with something, and I just feel like you really could have come up with something better. But like in the most Washington fashion ever, they botched the reveal. Someone was able to get aerial coverage through the windows in the stadium and basically leak the name before the team could even announce it. And we have a video of that here. And then in addition to that, their slogan, "Take Command," is not even their original slogan. It's from an old Alliance of America football team. So it just really seems like it's a mess. I think most people are just laughing about it on Twitter. I'm kind of laughing about it on Twitter. I actually just kind of wanted them to keep Washington football team at this point. It had already been the name for a few years. People were used to calling them that, and this one just seems disappointing. But that's just my opinion.
I agree with you. It's better than the Washington Commies, which is so ironic that the capitalist capital of America, DC, is going to be home to the Washington Commies.
And everyone's calling them that. That, like, that's what everyone's going to be calling them. It's just, I don't know. I don't know who approved it, but
it was the owner, and
yeah,
it's not like, I mean, every time he thinks he can't outdo himself, he's like, "Hold my beer," or "Here, hold my keg." It's really unbelievable. And now, speaking of the Washington Commies, another independent investigation will apparently be launched by said owner, Dan Snyder, independent, and it will be released to the public, like the last one was. So, I mean, this really is, it's a joke of a franchise. He's a horrible owner. Why the NFL continues to support this guy is beyond me. I mean, you don't think in a second, if the Washington Commies went up for sale, Jeff Bezos would be first in line to buy them.
I was going to say, there's got to be another billionaire out there that can take control of this team.
I mean, despite how horrible Dan Snyder is, this is still a historic franchise for multiple reasons. We won't get into all of it, but it's still a team that's won 3 Super Bowls, has had some of the best players in the history of the NFL to play for it. They're putting their lot behind Dan Snyder. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
There's a lot of things in the NFL that don't make sense, but that's heavy stuff that we're not going to cover on this Take It to Twitter. But if you go on social media, I promise you'll find it. What is your Take It to Twitter?
So I mentioned on our last show that the Aaron Rodgers stuff is going to dominate NFL social media. And we saw it last week with, Aaron Rodgers is looking for places in Nashville. Does that mean he's going to play for the Titans? Or he was in Cleveland this week. Does that mean he's going to play for the Browns? So,
I mean, why else would anyone be in Cleveland, though?
No one wants to go to Cleveland. And now he's in Phoenix. So at least we haven't gotten Kyler Murray has scrubbed all of his social media of the Cardinals. Does that mean that Aaron Rodgers could play for the Cardinals since he's in Phoenix? Aside from the fact that he's playing in the Phoenix Open, but he was teeing off and fans shouted, "Come to Denver." And there's videos out there, and it's not in the video, but apparently he says, "We'll see." I mean,
That's enough. That's enough.
not really much there, but okay, we'll see. I was like, thanks, Aaron Rodgers, for being Captain Obvious. Yes, we'll see.
But I mean, you have to admit that there's been movement in the market. I mean, especially in the Broncos futures, they are not where, I mean, if most people looked at these futures odds, they're not where they should be based on performance last year. And all of it has to do with this Aaron Rodgers rumor mill.
Yes, it is going to dominate the NFL. And it's not just Aaron Rodgers. Davante Adams is being linked in a possible deal with him to the Denver Broncos. And if they're able to get Davante Adams on top of Aaron Rodgers with this offense, with Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick and Noah Fant, Javonte Williams, if they go out and get Melvin Gordon, they re-sign him, or they get a different running back. So it's going to dominate the National Football League. And when we wrote about it at playcolorado.com last week, the Broncos had the 8th best odds. I'm not sure if they're still in that position now, but it's all because of Aaron Rodgers. They want to limit their liability because, as I told you before we started recording, on the first day of the NFL draft, that's when the Aaron Rodgers rumors to Denver really picked up. And that's when the sportsbooks were scrambling because bettors were throwing money on that futures market because they had the Broncos at plus 6,000, even higher than that. So they started to reduce it to plus 5,000 to 3,500. Eventually it was around a plus 1,000. So this is all because they want to limit their liability and not have to scramble if and when a potential move for Aaron Rodgers happens.
For sure. And like you said, we probably, I mean, we're not finding out this month. So just be, he's going to drag this out as long as he possibly can. But it is interesting. I mean, it's like you said, obviously in terms of limiting liability, but it is crazy to see how just a rumor, I mean, we have no confirmation, can move football markets like that, move futures markets like that before there's really any inside information about where he's going. So we'll see. I'm kind of glad that like I've said last week, that the, focus is not on the Steelers anymore. So we'll let your team have it.
And I do think that we'll hear in early March. I think because free agency will start, I think it's around March 14th or something like that. We'll hear before that because I don't think that he wants to keep the Packers in limbo. I don't think he wants to keep the Broncos in limbo. And I've joked that they hired Nathaniel Hackett. He's a coach that Aaron Rodgers loves. If you hire Nathaniel Hackett and you don't get Aaron Rodgers, what was the point? Yeah. It's like going to a Mexican restaurant and getting a cheeseburger. I mean, there's really no point in it. So why did you do it? So we'll see. I think it will eventually end up where Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Denver Broncos, but as he said,
calling it here,
as you said, we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Let's go ahead and keep the rumor mill, we'll push it to the side and we will go to promo party. And we've said this many, many a times, but normally we would say right before the NFL season, one of the best times to be a new sports bettor because the promos are ridiculous. But if you didn't sign up before the season, right before the Super Bowl is probably the other best time to sign up for a new sports book. Now, for my specific pick, we do see that a lot of sports books are putting out promos specifically for the Super Bowl. You are going to cover one of those. I am going to cover a general promotion, and that is going to be the Caesars Sportsbook up to $1,500 free bet match. So up to $1,500 free bet match. So this is how it's going to work. You sign up for Caesars Sportsbook and you register for an account there. Once that account is approved, you have 3 days to make a first-time deposit on the site. The deposit minimum has to be $50. It can be 50. Anything under $50 is not going to qualify you for this promotion. Whatever the value of that first-time deposit is, Caesars is going to match it with a free bet, a single use free bet of the value of that deposit. So really it is you choosing how big your bonus is going to be depending on your deposit amount. So this is really good for casual bettors because if you put 50, 60, 70, $100 on there, you're going to get a $100 free bet. And if you're a bigger spender and you're going to put $1,500 down, you're going to get a $1,500 single use free bet. You don't have to win a game. You don't have to do anything else besides register and deposit within the time frame. So I really like this one. I don't know how long Caesars is going to keep that big of a bonus up. It's one of the biggest ones that we've seen on the market so far. So if you're thinking about it, now would be a good time to take advantage.
Mine is one that we've talked about throughout the playoffs. It's the DraftKings bet $5, win 280. And unlike FanDuel, where they will do real cash money, DraftKings is free bets, but that is a lot in free bets. It will be broken up into, see, where is it here?
It's 740.
Yes, there you go. So that as we've talked about, it gives you a lot of flexibility to try things out. You sign up for your for a DraftKings sportsbook, make a deposit of $5 or more, place a wager of $5 on the NFL money line. So that would be the Super Bowl. Is it going to be the Rams or the Bengals? If your bet wins, you get $280 in free bets on top of whatever comes for your original bet. So
I really like the way that they broke it up because it's a sizable, like $40 is sizable, so it really gives you a lot of opportunity to check out the site, but $40 isn't what would be considered a small amount either. So it's a way to kind of maybe bet on some markets that you wouldn't necessarily put your own money down on, but you will because it's a free bet. So I really like this promotion as well.
Yeah, I do too. And I think one of the things that people should look into is golf betting, because I mentioned this on prior shows. The market is such, you get good value if you have a feeling about a guy. I mean, John Rahm is going to be favored for just basically any event that he plays in. But even then, that's good value as the favorite. He's usually like plus 900 for the favorite. So it's a good way to try things out. You can do futures. You can do college basketball since we're coming up on March Madness. Maybe the NBA MVP, which a heated debate between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Obviously, since I'm in Colorado, people know where I'm leaning, but it's a great way to explore the app. And as you said, with $40, that's a good chunk of money that, depending on the market and the odds, you could get a good payout for it.
And just remember, with free bets, if you didn't know, most of the time you don't get the value of the free bet back in any winnings. So if you put that $40 free bet down and that bet wins, you're just going to get the winnings from that wager and not the actual $40 value of the free bet. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And that's how most sports books handle free bet promotions like this.
And more often than not, you're not able to cash them out either.
Correct. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. But all right, this is going to be our last prop, lock, and drop it. My Mike Evans prop did cash 2 weeks ago. But you know what? It's the last one. It's a fun one. And there is no other time for prop betting like the Super Bowl.
None.
My God.
It's like the war and peace of props. Like there are pages and pages of props. And you're in Vegas. So if you go to the Superbook or you go to Circus Sports, like their whole board is nothing but props. It's crazy.
Sportsbook put out 2,000 prop betting options on the Super Bowl.
Insane.
That's one sportsbook. So if you ever,
we should have had a prop on the amount of props that sportsbooks would have.
I believe that's the most that Caesars has ever, that's their biggest prop menu option to date. But man, and it can get overwhelming. Here's the thing. Like, obviously you go to a sports book, you look, there's 2,000 options. You're like, what in the world? Like, how am I going to narrow it down? So again, my take on this is if there are a few fun ones that only come around in time for Super Bowl, maybe put a few bucks down on those because it's a once a year kind of thing. But other than that, use your research. So you should have already, likely have already been doing research. Let that guide your props and go in there looking for specific props that align with your research. Because if you're looking through that whole catalog, you're never going to be able to narrow it down. But speaking of fun props that happen once a year, that I would only put a few bucks down on. That's going to be my pick this week. And that's going to be the color of the Gatorade shower. So what color Gatorade is going to be dumped on the winning coach's head? And I'm going to go with my heart here. Normally actually blue opens normally orange opens as the early favorite, but I just cannot bet on orange. So I'm going to go blue plus 300 at BetMGM. And that's going to be my final prop. Lock and drop it. It's just a fun one. And this is the only time I can make it. So I might as well.
What's fascinating about this, and you did research on it, but what I find interesting is I think it's only been 3 times where the winning team dumped their jersey color on their head coach.
Yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot, right? Like that's the thing. You can't really, it's hard to do research on it. The Bucks did not do red. They did blue last year. And then the Chiefs did orange. And then I guess the Patriots, technically they did blue, 3 years ago. So they, I guess that were one of the times, but then in the Patriots previous Super Bowl to that, they didn't even do a Gatorade shower. So, like it's kind of a crapshoot. It's just a fun one to put a few bucks down with your friends. I'm going blue.
And obviously another popular one, a novelty one, is the coin toss. And there's that old phrase, tails never fails. That's probably going to be the favorite. What's crazy to me is the DraftKings Sportsbook director, Johnny Avello, did an interview this week where he said that he had people throwing 5 to 6 figures on the coin toss, which is crazy to me because that is a truly 50-50 event, and no matter of research is going to give you any sort of an edge.
Well, this is funny because I did a video on this, and there is this research going around on gambling Twitter, but I'm here to dispel this. Okay. So there is research going on from Stanford around gambling Twitter that wherever you start the coin toss, that's the bias, right? So if it starts on heads, there's a 51% chance it's going to land on heads. And if you start on tails, there's a 51% chance it's going to start on tails. That is true. However, that's for if you catch the coin. It does not account for what we do in the NFL where we let the coin roll on the ground, flip around, and then see what it is. So there's been so many people citing this Stanford research and using that to inform their bet for the coin toss, and it doesn't apply to the NFL. So just remember that. Like, remember what these props are there for. I would never, ever put thousands of dollars down on a coin toss prop, but if you got it, I guess go ahead and do it.
Why not? For me, I'm going to DraftKings. They have some novelty props. There's 2 of them, which I think are really fun. Jersey number of the first touchdown score, and the number is 23.5. The under is minus 140. The over is plus 110. And based on the numbers, I would bet the under because I think it's either going to be Cooper Kupp or Jamar Chase to get the first touchdown for the game or for their said teams. But then this is really off the cuff here. Will there be an octopus? And the octopus is a player gets a touchdown and then gets the 2-point conversion.
Ooh.
So the eight for the octopus. The yes is plus 1,400. No is minus 2,500. I'm not going to do that one. I'm just throwing it out there because it's fun. Because I mean, the no value, no is probably the likelihood, but at plus 1,400, if you think it could happen, but I'm going to go with the jersey number of the first touchdown score. I'm going to go under, and I'm actually going to make a bold prediction. I think the first touchdown scorer will be Cooper Kupp.
Okay. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, like Ian said, and just like you can tell in that 15 seconds of looking at DraftKings, there are so many props. It's jersey number. It's like terms that you've never even heard of.
I saw one at Betfred, which is live in Colorado. They had the team for the first time out.
Oh my God.
And
yeah, you can really bet on anything when it comes to the Super Bowl.
Based on his clock management, I'd be leaning toward Sean McVay on that. But I mean, that's literally it goes everywhere. And
Yeah.
then there are parlays where you can do multiple sports. There are books that are throwing in the
Yes.
NBA for, will Cooper Cup get more points than so-and-so in the NBA? So they find all kinds of ways. And I'm sure they'll do it in Nevada. They'll do it in Colorado. They'll do it in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, Michigan.
Believe DraftKings has it's cross sports props for the Super Bowl. So again, you can find whatever you're looking for.
You'll find
you
it.
can find it besides straight national anthem props and halftime props.
sure.
But other than that, you can pretty much find everything you're looking for. I just want to say, we both want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in with us every week on The Huddle. We are so happy to have you along for this ride, and we've made it to the Super Bowl, and hopefully there's a season 2 and we see you next season. And if you're betting on the Super Bowl, as always, good luck. And if you're not, enjoy the game.